Welcome to Hope Kids at Home. I'm Pastor Tony hanging out with you guys for today as we finish up talking about gratitude. Remember, gratitude is letting others know you see how they've helped you. We're finishing up gratitude after celebrating a holiday that's all about being thankful and having gratitude, and that's Thanksgiving. And my hope is that you guys all had an awesome Thanksgiving. I hope that you guys ate a lot of food, a lot of good food. You played football, you hung out with your family, hung out with friends, played video games, rested, took a nap, read a book, whatever you did. I hope that you had an amazing Thanksgiving holiday. This has been an awesome month for us to focus on Thanksgiving and really living with gratitude. Remember, in the first week, we talked about how there is always something to be grateful for. If you look around you and there is nothing to celebrate, nothing's gone your way, or there's been full of disappointments and frustrations, there is always something that we could be grateful for, and we turn that back to we are grateful for who God is and how much He loves us. Then we talked about how we could celebrate what God has done. God is doing a work in and through and around us every single day. All we need to do is stop and pause and worship Him to be able to notice those moments in our life. Then we talked about the importance of saying thank you. Remember when Jesus healed the guys with the skin disease, the lepers, and only one came back to say thank you. It's important to do that, not just to be polite and have good manners, but it's our worship with God. We can say thank you to God for what He is doing around us, how He created us, and how much He loves us. Last week we talked about how we need to adjust our attitude. Right? We talked about this idea or this phrase that we always say of it's not fair, life's not fair, that's not fair. But really, we were given the greatest gift in this that anyone could ever receive in this world. That's a gift of Jesus and His grace that we can enter into a relationship with God again, and we didn't deserve that. We should have had our punishment, we should have had our consequence for our sin taken care of, but Jesus took that upon Himself when He died on the cross, and that wasn't fair. So when something doesn't go your way, we can adjust our attitude. Today we're talking about habits, right? And I'm not talking about bad habits like chewing your fingernails or picking your nose, or I know for me, one of my biggest habits growing up was I used to talk really, really softly. And it was really hard for people to understand the words I was saying, and they would always tell me to speak up, speak up, speak up. And then when I learned how to speak up, another habit of mine was I used to say a lot. So I'd be like, hi, my name is Pastor Tony. That was a habit of mine. But I'm not just talking about habits like good and bad habits. We're talking about a habit of living with gratitude. The habit of saying not just thank you, but living with thanksgiving. And I think what's hard about not having a habit, remember, a habit is something that you're doing every single day to where it becomes now part of your routine. A habit is something that you do and it becomes something you don't even think about. When it comes to Thanksgiving, and the reason why I think it's hard for us to develop a habit of living with Thanksgiving is that it's hard for us to remember to say thank you. It's hard for us to remember to be gracious or to have gratitude. We kind of have short-term memory in what to do if someone gives us a gift or says a nice word. We take it in, and a lot of times we forget to say thank you. We forget to remember to live with gratitude. And unfortunately, that's true of us in our relationship with God. We often forget or we don't remember how much God has done for us, and we take a lot of things for granted. We hear about Jesus dying for our sins, and in the back of our mind we go, I know He died for us. I heard this story 1,000 times. We often forget to remember the significance of who God is and how much He loved us and how much His sacrifice of His Son cost Him. You see, we often forget to remember the goodness of who God is and how that really impacts us every single day. And it's not just us. The disciples, Jesus' closest friends, had a hard time developing this habit of remembering to be thankful and have gratitude in their own life. It's the reason why Jesus taught them this very important thing and a way for them to remember the things about Him, the things about who God is, to live out in their life. So check out the So and So Show. We're going to talk more about what this habit is, and I'll see you guys when the video is done.
Oh, fantastic. That was Johnny Boy and the Beef Jerky Boys running away from a fight. Up next, we got more hits for you. But first, let's take some calls. Hello, you are on WSO with John.
Hey, John, this is Steve at WJED in Skokie. Just wanted to give a shout out and say thank you for bringing so much joy to the people.
Thanks, Steve. Right back at you. Hey, you're on the air with John.
John, this is Barb and Vidalia at WON. Just wanted to say thank you. You're sweeter than honeycomb dipped in molasses. Keep up the good work, sugar.
Thanks, Barb. Hello, talk to me.
Hi, this is Brandon, your co-host on the So-and-So Show. I wanted to give you a shout out and say, you're the best host ever.
But seriously, Brandon, if anyone is the best host ever, it's you, buddy.
Yeah. How about some music from Planet John's guitar hit, Chain Reaction of Love?
You're not the only one who's good at impersonations.
Whoa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brandon.
I'm John.
And welcome to the So-and-So Show. So, John.
Hey, Jabberwocky is a nonsense poem written by Lewis Carroll, included in his novel Through the Looking Glass.
Yeah. Okay, John.
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to do the show with me today?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just have to get my daily reading in.
Okay, right now?
Yeah. I mean, it's important to make a habit of reading a little bit every day, kids.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Today I'm reading this classic, The Jay in Kekalapadaya.
Do you have to read it in the middle of the show?
I've missed a few days and I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah, how many days?
What day is it? 1, 2, 3 years. Huh. Did you know that Jacksonville, Florida is the largest city by land area in the continental United States?
I did not know that.
This book is incredible. You can learn almost anything you want, as long as it starts with a J and existed before 1967. Yeah, I don't know why more people haven't read it.
Yeah, me neither. By the way, if you don't know what an encyclopedia is, you can look it up on the internet, along with literally anything else you want to learn about.
What? Not all jaguars have spots. That's crazy.
John, please read that some other time. We're in the middle of something here.
I know, but I found that I have a better chance of keeping a good habit when I habit stack.
When you what now?
When I habit stack.
Yeah, I heard the words.
It's when you take one habit and you stack it onto another. Like, I'm in the habit of doing the So-and-So Show with you every week. If I stack my reading habit on top of that, then I won't forget to read.
Okay, can't you stack it onto another habit? I mean, what's another habit you have?
Well, when I wake up in the morning, I have a habit of screaming before I do anything else.
Why in the world?
Clears the lungs.
Oh, fine. Okay, why don't you habit stack reading after your morning scream?
Oh, because after my morning scream, I drink my morning coffee.
Okay, then habit stack reading after your coffee.
Oh, but that would get in the way of my morning cry.
Is the paddle ball part of it?
Habit stacking.
Okay. So you've got a full morning.
Uh-huh.
All right. But we've got to figure out some place to stack your reading habit.
Okay, we can make a game of it.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
Habit Stacking Heroes.
The game is easy. Instead of doing habits one after another, we're going to do them all at once. Whoever can do the most good habits at the same time wins. Make sense?
Not at all. Let's play.
Ready, set, go!
Brush your teeth.
Okay.
Easy.
Uh-huh. Look at that.
Sit-ups.
Zero.
Okay. All right.
Practice math.
What? Okay. Practice math. This is easy. I don't even need a calculator.
2 equals 4.
Vocal warm-ups.
Oh. Cats can't kick cups. Cats can't kick cups.
Do the bicycle.
Cats can't kick cups.
You're both winners.
Oh. Are we? Hey, I've never felt more productive.
It's Bible story time with Cameron.
Hey, good people.
Hey, Cameron. Thanks again for taking our friend Kellen's place this month.
Anytime. What's going on with you guys today?
Habit stacking. You want to try?
Trust me, Cameron, it's a hard no.
Okay, but habits can be good sometimes. In fact, today we're talking about a habit that began thousands of years ago that's still happening today.
Awesome. Take it away, Cameron.
You've probably heard of the Lord's Supper, or maybe you've heard it called communion, or even a really fancy word like Eucharist. Different people observe the Lord's Supper in different ways, sometimes every week or every month, or maybe a few times a year. Sometimes people use bread and wine, sometimes they use juice and crackers. But even though everyone does it a little bit differently, the reason they do it is the same. They do it to remember. When Jesus and his disciples were having their Last Supper together, they themselves were remembering something called the Passover. Hundreds of years before Jesus, God's people, the Israelites, were slaves in Egypt. And God chose a man named Moses to rescue his people from the Egyptian Pharaoh. Moses said,
Let my people go.
but the Pharaoh refused, so God sent 10 plagues: frogs, sick animals, flies. But the 10th plague was by far the worst. Moses warned Pharaoh that if he didn't let God's people go, every firstborn son in Egypt would die, including Pharaoh's own son. But Pharaoh refused. God gave the Israelites a way to protect themselves from what was coming. They were to sacrifice a lamb, then spread some of its blood on the doorframe of their houses. This would be a sign for God to pass over that home and not harm anyone inside. That night, those with the blood of the lamb on their doorframes were spared. But Pharaoh's firstborn son died, along with every other firstborn son in Egypt. So Pharaoh sent the Israelites away. After hundreds of years in slavery, they were finally free. That's what Jesus and his disciples were remembering during their last meal together. They were remembering the day when God rescued his people from slavery in Egypt. But Jesus was about to give the celebration a whole new meaning for you and me. When Jesus had given thanks, he broke the bread and he said,
This is my body. It is given for you. Every time you eat it, do it in memory of me.
After supper, Jesus took the cup of wine and said,
This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Every time you drink it, do it in memory of me.
Jesus knew that God had a plan for another incredible rescue. This time, he would rescue the whole world. And this time, Jesus himself would be the sacrifice. That's why we celebrate the Lord's Supper today. So we can show God how grateful we are to him for sending his son, and so that we can get in the habit of remembering how Jesus gave his life to save you and me. The end.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, it's so cool to think that when we take communion or the Lord's Supper, we're literally doing something that Christians have been doing since the beginning of the church.
And that's over 100 years.
Try 2,000 years.
I say again, wow.
Yeah. It's important for us to have things we do regularly that can remind us to be grateful to God.
Hey, you ought to have it stack that, John.
Yeah, I'll put that right after my morning cry. You see, Cameron?
You don't have to explain.
Okay.
Thanks for the story, Cameron.
You bet, guys. See you next time.
Looks like we've got some remembering to do, John.
I'm ready to try, but it's just hard for me. I can't even remember to send my Aunt Maisie a thank you card for my graduation present.
Your graduation?
Oh, yeah, I've been meaning to do it for 25 years.
Reveal the question! What helps you remember to be grateful?
Well, doing the Lord's Supper helps me remember to be grateful for what Jesus did for us.
Yeah, and being outside can help me remember to be thankful for all the beautiful things God made.
Yeah, what about you? What helps you remember to be grateful? Not just to God, but to people too.
Yeah, talk about it together.
And we'll see you next time on the So and So Show. And I'll be moving on to the K in the Encyclopedia. Can't wait to tell you the major export of Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan.
I can't wait either. Bye.
Bye.
For thousands of years, people have developed traditions and habits and ceremonies to remember things about who God is, right? Next month, we have Christmas, and whenever we think of Christmas, we know it brings us back to the birth of Jesus. We celebrate Christmas because of the birth of Jesus. When Easter comes around, we know that we celebrate not the fact that Jesus died on the cross, but he rose again 3 days later. That not only he died for our sins, but God is more powerful than sin and death itself, that Jesus came back to life. And ultimately, we serve a God who is alive. You see, what Jesus did for his disciples was he gave them another way to develop a habit to remember how good God is and how much he loves us. He did this through what's called the Lord's Supper, or we may know this by communion. Some of you have done communion before. You know what communion is. Others of you, I know, never go inside the main service with your parents when we do communion Sundays or Lord's Supper Sundays. But communion is an opportunity for us as Jesus followers to stop and pause and reflect on who God is. And more so, thanking him for sending Jesus to die for our sins. You see, communion makes up a couple of different elements. There's bread and then there's juice. And those two things symbolize, or what it does, it tells kind of the story about what Jesus did for us. The bread of communion represents Jesus' body. So when we partake in that, we remember who Jesus is. We remember the life that he lived, how he was perfect. He was sinless. He set the example for every Jesus follower to live after, not in only his worship with God the Father, but in how we treat and love one another. And when we eat the bread of communion, we remember the body of Jesus. Remember that God came down as Jesus to ultimately die for our sins. Which leads us to the juice. We drink that juice for communion to symbolize the fact that Jesus died for us. It's the fact that Jesus went to the cross for our punishment for our sin, the consequence of our sin that has separated us from God, right? Nothing good can go with anything bad, so that separated us from God, but Jesus came, and when we put our faith and trust and believe in him, we can now come into a relationship with God again. There's nothing we have to do. There's nothing we earn. There's no good works we have to do. All it is by believing in him, trusting in him, and ultimately say it's no longer the life that I lead, but it's Jesus living in and through me. It's a great example of remembering to be thankful. And we do this throughout the year so that way we never lose sight of the significance and importance of what Jesus has done for us. It helps us remember, and it helps us be thankful and have gratitude for that greatest gift that we could ever receive. So that leads us to the main point for today, is that get in the habit of being grateful. Get in the habit of living with gratitude and thanksgiving. Don't let it be something to where it happens every so often or if you remember, but do things with purpose to help you guys remember who Jesus is and how much he loves you. This week, having communion together as a family might be a great opportunity for you guys to stop and pause and reflect on what Jesus has done for us. There's other ways that you guys can get in the habit of living with gratitude. It could be the way that you love your neighbor, in the way that you write encouragement notes, or maybe you can send a text to a friend, or give a gift to your teacher. You can do those things to express your gratitude. When it comes to your relationship with God, always start your prayer by thanking God for what he's doing. Thank God for the things that he has given you in your life. Don't focus on the things you don't have, but rather focus on the things that you do have. And the things that you do have, you can find joy because God has given those things to you. You can thank God for who he is and how good and great and faithful and trustworthy he is, the fact that he provides. You can thank him for the things he's given you, all the blessings in your life, the people in your life, all those things. You can thank God, and that will help us and help you live with a life of gratitude and thanksgiving. So I'm excited to hear and see what you guys do this next week as you guys wrap up what it means to live with gratitude and thanksgiving. Try one of those things this next week. Put gratitude into practice. Live it out, and I'm excited to see what God does in and through you for that. Again, I hope you guys had an awesome Thanksgiving. We do not have Park Day this Sunday, so we are off for that. So I hope you guys have an awesome time hanging out at home, and we'll see you guys next week for Hope Kids at Home.